Are you thinking about moving to Salem, but you want to hear what it's really like to live here from someone who's just like you who relocated? Well, good news, because you found that person. Me. Guys, it's me. I'm the person who relocated here to Salem. I've been here for 5 years now, and I'm gonna tell you 10 negative things about Salem that I wish I knew before I moved here. I tried to narrow these down to just things that could potentially dissuade you from actually moving to Salem, because it is really easy to romanticize a place and feel like it's just the perfect place, when in reality, there's a lot more to it. So this is going to be a really balanced review on the negatives that I have experienced after I relocated to Salem. The last one that we talk about is probably the most popular deterrent that keeps people away from moving to Salem. Stay tuned and make sure that you are okay with all of these negatives, and if you are, you might just be ready to move to Salem. Now, if this is your first time to this channel and you want to know everything about Salem, Oregon, and its surrounding towns, make sure to subscribe below and hit that little bell button to be the first one notified when I put out a new video each week. My name is Clique-y and I'm your local realtor. So cheesy, but I love it. If you're thinking about buying a home here in Salem, do not hesitate to reach out. You can find all of our contact information in the description of this video. Ooh, and hot diggity damn, we're starting off hot here. We're gonna talk about the weather. Now, you might be wondering if the weather in Salem is anything like Portland. This is a valid question and concern, my friends, because Salem's only 45 minutes south of Portland, so I can definitively tell you that yes, they have incredibly similar climates. The only difference that I've noticed since moving to Salem from Portland is that sometimes there will be days where it's sunny in Salem, and then I'll drive north to Portland and it becomes overcast. Salem's weather is going to be rainy and cold in the winter time and dry in the summertime. But something to understand about our summers is that they really start from June until mid-October, so we don't actually have a whole lot of months of really hot, sunny weather. The rest of the year is just gonna be raining or cloudy or cold or gray, but we can go for days or even weeks without seeing the sun in the winter time. We do also have seasons here, so there is a very distinct line between the summer, the fall, the winter, and the spring, and depending on the season that you're in, you're either going to have more sun or more rain and cloudy days. The winter time is going to be mostly cloudy and wet, while the fall is going to be wet, of course, duh, but it's also going to be cool, crisp air. Think like getting your cup of coffee, going to the pumpkin patch, buying a pumpkin, wearing flannel, and being all cozy. It really is sweater weather in the fall. Stock up if you don't have sweaters. The springtime is gonna be warm, but most likely we'll have May showers, and then in the summertime, it's gonna be sunny and anywhere from 80 to 100 degrees. Growing up in Oregon, I did not have AC because the summer times just weren't really hot enough to need AC. You would just open up your windows at night and air the house out with the cool night air. But I do feel like the summer times in Salem are getting progressively warmer each year, and you really do have to have AC because it gets really hot here. Last summertime, it got all the way up to 115 degrees, which, yes, that is rare, but I can tell you firsthand, I was so happy to have AC during those days. In the wintertime, you're gonna get more snow and ice storms, and it's really important to know that we are very ill-equipped to handle the snowstorms that we do get. So in the wintertime, if there is a snowstorm, you can expect everything to shut down. That means the schools are gonna shut down, or they're gonna have late starts, restaurants are gonna shut down, grocery stores usually stay open, but they have limited staff. And then if you're thinking about driving anywhere in that snow or that ice, just know that we are terrible drivers in the snow because it's so unfamiliar to us. You can expect us to just be god awful at it, like horrendously terrible. Before we keep chatting, go down to the comments below and tell me one thing that has scared you about moving to Oregon, because then I can make videos about the things that you're wondering about. See how this works, huh? Ooh, what do we got here? The bugs. Oregon in general and Salem specifically don't have a lot of things like cockroaches or lightning bugs, and while we certainly have those things somewhere, they're just not really common here. But what we do have, and is very unique and specific to Salem, is stink bugs. These stink bugs are actually beetles, and they infiltrate Salem from about April to June. And it's just like suddenly, all of a sudden, they are everywhere. They're invasive and they are not native to Salem, but you can expect them, especially if you're touring houses, to see these little dead stink bugs everywhere. If you're going out on a walk in the park, you can expect them just to smack you on the face because they are dang everywhere for a few months out of the year. So this is something that you definitely need to consider if you don't like invasive beetles. It's very specific. I had no idea that these things even existed before moving to Salem, and then all of a sudden they were just everywhere. Now they are harmless enough, but they are called stink bugs for a reason, I'm sure. I've never smelled them or gotten sprayed by them, which I'm assuming that's what they do. I don't know. They're just really more of a pest than anything. It's super easy to get pest control out here. You just call somebody on the phone and they will come spray the perimeter of your house. Super easy. Another bug that we have here, which I didn't actually know was anywhere in Oregon except for the coast, is going to be no-see-ums. Now, these bugs are super, super tiny, which is why they're called no-see-ums, because you can't see them, and they'll just go on your arm and they bite you. And although they are tiny, their bite is incredibly itchy while they're biting you. Now, afterwards, once you squish them, they don't have a lingering itchy effect like a mosquito, but because they're so tiny, they can be really hard to find, and you'll just be sitting there and all of a sudden it gets really itchy. So watch out for those. The third bug that's really common here that you should probably know about are the ants. I don't know about the rest of the country. I'm assuming here that every place has ants, right? They're everywhere. But here in Oregon in the summertime, if you leave anything on the counter, you can expect that those little fuckers are gonna come for it, and they're gonna tell all of their friends, and then they're just gonna have a fiesta on your countertop. The way that I get around this is in June, I will put out a little ant borax trap in front of all of my doorways, and that keeps the ants out. They'll munch on that borax, take it back to their family. Sounds so sinister, but they'll take it back to their little family and then it poisons them. Do I feel bad about that? No, not at all. Okay, what do we have here? Ooh, downtown and the nightlife in Salem. I personally feel like Salem's downtown is more of a destination because it doesn't really have that big energy and vibe, especially if you're comparing it to a place like Corvallis or Portland. If you're looking for a lot of nightlife and a lot of downtown activities, Salem could be very disappointing to you. I think Salem's downtown is more of a destination because there's not a lot of residential living around downtown, so people really do come to downtown to work and go out to dinner at a restaurant, and then they leave. Full disclosure, I've never really been much of a nightlife person or a party person, so I don't exactly know if I'm the right person to be talking about the nightlife in Salem. I can speak to my type of nightlife and how I interact with downtown Salem, which is hopping in my car and driving downtown for date night. Date night for my husband and I is usually at the Cozy Taberna, which is personally my favorite restaurant in Salem, and I actually think it's because the restaurateurs, they had a whole bunch of restaurants in Portland, and during COVID and the riots, they were located downtown, so they decided that they were gonna pack up shop, and they actually came to Salem and opened a restaurant. So Cozy Taberna has Spanish-style tapas, and it is the foodie caliber that you could find in Portland, but it's in Salem. That's my favorite place for a date night. And then my husband and I usually hit up Coin Jam, which is a adult 21 over arcade. Super fun. If you like arcade games, you like the old school arcade games, they have so many there. I'm a fan of pinball. That's where you'll probably find me on date night. They also have a good selection of beers and sodas and food. Really great bar food actually. But but I guess if you've been drinking, all food is good food, right? Ooh, the wildfires. This is a good one. In Salem, you don't need to worry about wildfires coming into town and burning down your home, but as a resident of Oregon, you definitely need to be aware that a lot of wildfires happen in eastern and central Oregon. And honestly, it is just a normal part of having a really forested land. Unlike Salem, which actually sits in the Willamette Valley, eastern and central Oregon are considered the high desert landscape, which means that in the summertime, they get incredibly arid and dry, and there is a lot of brush that has accumulated throughout the rest of the year, so it can easily catch fire by lightning or a man-made burn from fireworks or not putting out a campfire properly. Now, you will have days where you see smoke in the air, and if it's really bad and the wind is blowing just right, you'll even get skies that are completely orange, and you'll step outside and you'll get ash on your skin. So if you have health conditions that relate to your lungs or anything, definitely be mindful during fire season, which is in the summer, and just put on a mask and you'll be fine. Here's a pro tip, because we have so many dang wildfires throughout the summer and our air quality can get pretty darn atrocious. Remember to get extra air filters for your furnace, because if the wildfire comes, we have smoke in the air, and then all of a sudden your air filter's like screaming at you and like, oh my God, change me. And then you feel like going out to Home Depot, you're gonna be SOL, my friends. Shit out of luck. Those filters go fast, so stock up beforehand so you don't have to scramble. Ooh, did I spell this right? I don't think I did. The clickiness. Now, this was something that really caught me off guard coming from out of town to Salem. It's a very hardworking town, and a lot of these families that established Salem as a city, whether that was through agriculture or other industries and big names here, being an outsider and moving in here, I had no concept of these foundational families and the community that they built. And I found that it was a little bit cliquey and hard to integrate myself into the community as somebody who didn't know the history and coming from the outside. Now, once I started working and going into my real estate office, people were incredibly friendly and open to getting to know me and really bringing me into their fold. But Salem does have a very small town provincial feel. Everyone knows everyone here, and it does take some time to find your people and your tribe or your community that you connect with. You will also find that more people are church going here than a place like Portland. And I know I'm comparing Salem to Portland a lot, but that's because I came from Portland. So very different vibe. But a lot of people in Salem do go to church. I personally do not, so that might have been an issue why it was so hard to feel like I could find my people or my tribe, because I just didn't go to church. In terms of friendliness, I do feel like people are equally friendly here as in any other place in Oregon. It just takes a little bit more work to break the barrier here. High cost of living. Well, shoot, this one is pretty darn relative, because I do think it kind of depends on where you're coming from. But yes, all of Oregon is considered a high cost of living state, just like the entire West Coast. If you're comparing a place like Seattle or Portland or Los Angeles, the cost of living in Salem is cheaper, especially when it comes to real estate. But when you compare the home prices and the cost of gas and the cost of groceries to a place like the Midwest or a low cost of living area, then Salem is gonna seem super expensive. So this one really is just relative, and it totally depends on where you're moving from. A lot of people actually move to Salem who work and commute to Portland because it is relatively cheaper than the city of Portland. Now, within your budget in Salem, you can definitely get a bigger house down here for less money, but you do have to endure a 45-minute commute up to Portland if that's the direction you're going. If you are somebody who's thinking about Salem and you're going to be commuting into Portland for work, there are neighborhoods in Salem that are going to be more conducive to your commute and getting into work. If that's you and you're planning on commuting into work into Portland, that is something we can definitely talk about if you schedule a one-on-one consultation with me. I mean, really, the thing is, like, I know Salem so well now. If you just tell me your lifestyle, your likes and your dislikes, I can tell you exactly what neighborhood you're gonna wanna look in. I mean, I came here 5 years ago, so now I know it like the back of my hand. We help people just like you who are probably watching this exact same video, who are relocating into Salem and they just don't know where to look. So definitely reach out to us and we can figure that out with you. Ooh, how fun. Taxes. Who doesn't love taxes? Oregon is one of those states that has an income tax. So if you're coming from a place that doesn't have income tax, you're definitely gonna wanna talk to your CPA and factor in those overall costs of living because you are going to get taxed on your income here. One thing about Salem is that we don't have sales tax. This is actually true for all of Oregon. So wherever you land in Oregon, what you see on the sticker is what you're gonna pay. Property taxes here are around 1-ish%. Now that totally depends on the house, but that's a good rule of thumb to estimate costs. Your property taxes here could be a whole heck of a lot cheaper, especially if you're moving from a place like Texas where you have a lot of new construction homes and you're paying taxes directly from those bonds that establish those communities. Ooh, this is a fun one. If you have grass allergies, you might not want to actually move to Salem because we are right next to Lynn County, which is literally the grass seed capital of the world. I myself grew up without any allergies, and when I came to Salem, without fail, every single year in June, I don't know what it is or what the heck is blooming, but my allergies go crazy. The only way that I can get around it is take Zyrtec all year round, and finally now, after 5 years, I can just go outside in June and I have minimal sneezing and minimal itchy eyes and minimal runny nose. But because Salem is such a lush and green space and we are surrounded by so many farms and so many agricultural producing places, all of that pollen gets kicked up in the spring and in the summertime. If you look at our air quality in the summertime, you're gonna see that it goes so far down because there are so many pollen spores in the air. If you're not used to the Pacific Northwest and the stuff that blooms here, you might just have terrible allergies. Just like any other place you go though, you can definitely get a shot for your allergies at the doctor's or take medicine year round like I do. Ooh, this is a really big negative. At least this was a big negative for me when I moved down here from Portland, and that was there's very limited public transportation in Salem. Again, I am comparing this to Portland, which is known to have a really robust public transportation network. The city of Salem does have something that's called the Chariots, which is the public transportation system, but honestly, I've never even taken it because it is such a headache to try and figure out where to go to try and plan your trip, and then you have to walk a long ways to actually find a bus stop, and then the bus stops don't drop you off near where you want to go, and the ones that they do drop you off at, you have to walk like a mile. So overall, I just don't feel like it's a very extensive network, which makes it feel really limited and frustrating to navigate. So if you're relying on public transportation as your main mode of getting anywhere in Salem, you're definitely going to want to consider that when you're purchasing a house and avoid certain neighborhoods that don't have as many bus stops. Overall, I think public transportation is so limited here that I'm going to just straight up say that Salem is car dependent and you need to have a car here. The good news is that in your cute little car that you're driving, it's only going to take you 20 minutes to get anywhere in Salem. That's just like the law of Salem. 20 minutes north to south, 20 minutes east to west. The one exception to this is if you live in West Salem, you have to traverse the bridge. The West Salem Bridge is a headache. If you need to get to the east side of Salem, you do not want to live in the west side. If you have to commute and get onto I-5, whether that's going north or south, you do not want to find yourself living in West Salem because your commute time is going to be doubled just from trying to get out of West Salem. I do have other videos that go further into detail about where you actually want to live in Salem based on your needs, but for this video, we're just going to leave it at that. At the beginning of this video, I told you that the last one is the most important thing that you need to consider about Salem. And this is the reason why a lot of people decide not to actually move to Salem, and that's okay. Salem is not for everyone, so let's just talk about it. Salem is very close to Portland, and it is also very close to places like Eugene and Corvallis, but it is not nearly as progressive as those other cities. Now, I am not talking about political views here. I am just talking about vibes. You have to remember that Salem is surrounded by agricultural land and farms, and it is a city of industry as well as our state capital. It does not have that progressive vibe that a place like Portland has. I don't want you to interpret that Salem is completely not progressive and it's really limited and people aren't open-minded. That's not what I'm saying at all. People are really genuinely kind here to everyone, but when you are comparing it to a place like Portland and that type of progressiveness that Portland has is what you're looking for, Salem does not match up to that. You're gonna find that there's a lot more trucks down here. There's a lot of cowboy hats and cowboy boots, and Salem hosts the county fair every year, and we have livestock auctions, we have best in show for the farm animals. It is just a very different vibe than a lot of other communities in Oregon. And I want to reiterate that I came from Portland. I still feel like my views and outlooks on life are really respected here. It is just a different vibe. If you're wanting to move to Salem, but you're still feeling like you need some more help or you want some more information about what it's really like to live here from somebody who's also relocated here, send us a text, an email, a carrier pigeon, a carrier pigeon, whatever the heck you want. But reach out so that we can help you buy a home here. You can find all of our contact information in the description of this video. And don't forget to leave a comment about something you think I should have mentioned about Salem, but didn't. Bye, friends. Okay, sit up straight. Very distinct. What?